Colonia, bustling port town, administrative center of Ponape, the capital of the Federated States of Micronesia. Colonia, the colony, a town founded by the Spaniards over 100 years ago. A town whose past can be traced to a wall whose remnants we still see today. Colonia was a fortress of the Spanish government, a well-protected enclosure from which they ruled Ponape in the Eastern Carolines from 1887 until the end of the century. It was situated in an area Ponapeans called Micronesian, facing the wind. The Spaniards christened it Santiago de la Ascensión.
We have come into the old Spanish town that was completely enclosed by this wall, the so-called Spanish Wall. The wall was built up in 1890, that means 3 years after the Spaniards came to Pompeii to stay, that is in 1887. The wall had two gates, one is this behind me, and it had another gate that disappeared. The name of these gates were Spanish Gate and Manila Gate, or in Spanish, Puerta Española y Puerta de Manila. The wall was made with stone in a constructive system called mamposteria. This word means stone that can be placed with hand. The joints were made with lime mortar, and they were completely covered with mortar, with lime mortar. One British voyager coming to Pompeii in those late years of the last century called Pompeii, the Spanish colony, the white-walled city. So that means that that wall that we can appreciate today was completely white in those early moments.
Within the colony were all the buildings used by the Spanish administration.
The enfermeria, or the infirmary, was a building with twin bodies, round-shaped. It was located right in the same position that afterwards occupied the hospital, the old Pompeii hospital. Beside the infirmeria was a factoria, we can say the store or place where all the goods were sold in those times. The Casa de Gobierno, or the Governor House, was located in the place where was the old courthouse. We can know how that building was, as well as the infirmeria, because of the photographs that can be shown in old books. To the left of the Governor House was located the Secretaria, where nowadays is the dugout of the baseball field. In the Secretaria, where the office, where the administrative procedures of those times were carried out. The very first church that the Spanish missionary built up in Pompeii was located more or less in the position that nowadays occupy the police station. Close to the wall were the barracks where the troops, the soldiers, lived. In those times, the Spaniards came in here were soldiers, missionaries.
From these openings, the Spanish militia could fire on intruders. Even before the Spaniards built a wall, they erected a fort, Fort King Alfonso XIII.
I noticed that this part of the wall from here to here and also going this way is kind of a strange shape to it.
Yeah.
Is it really part of the wall, or what is this?
Well, not really. So you know that this, I'm agree, it's a strange shape. This was the fort. It was not the wall. So it was the very first Spanish construction here, where all the soldiers were living, was this fort. It was built in 1887, so 3 years before the wall. Now it has become a part of the wall, but really there are two different things. So there was the fort. The name was Alfonso XIII, after the Spanish king of those times, and it had a polygonal shape, octagon shape, almost a rounded shape. There was no wall, so it was only this fort with this rounded shape. And afterwards, after 3 years, the Spaniards built the wall.
From the gate at the Catholic mission, the wall continued seaward for a short way. This leg would have met the water near the causeway. The colony extended from the remains of the Spanish wall today, near the Catholic Church, down to the seashore. At the intersection of Main Street and the one-way road called Kelin, Spain, the wall turns toward the shore. Here at the shoreline, the Spaniards had their dock. Here, too, lay the Maria de Molina, the pontoon boat on which the entire Spanish colony took refuge during the first uprising, a few months after their arrival.
And I understand from the map you have that the Spanish wall came all the way down somewhere around that area on the other side of the coconut tree.
Yeah, I mean, maybe beyond that point, because there was coming to this point a trail that maybe we can see afterwards, and it was coming more or less at this point that there was a war. So the end of the wall was beyond this area, but somewhere here, yeah.
But beyond, somewhere around here.
Yeah.
I also understand there was a ship
Yeah.
that was used at that time for the colonists or something. Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah, really that was the ship, the steam ship that brought the first Spanish missionaries to Pompeii and the Spanish first soldier that came here. Her name was Maria de Molina, and he was stuck here. He was used as a pontoon, so she never came back to the Philippines or to Spain or to any other place. And it was used as a shelter in certain moments of the early history of the Spaniards here, as a shelter. I assume that since we are in a reclamation area, probably somewhere here is buried the remains of that ship.
In 1899, after the Spanish-American War, Spain surrendered the Caroline Islands. The old colony was turned over to the Germans, thus ending 13 years of Spanish rule. Colonia, Micronesian, Santiago de la Ascensión, the colony.